There are commanders in Rise of Kingdoms that were recently considered meta that you absolutely should no longer be investing in. Literally any day now we could find out more information about new cavalry commanders landing in the game, and as we move into 2026 there are some commanders that are simply no longer meta. And so in this video I'm going to be setting the record straight to let you guys know which commanders should most likely be left behind in 2025. But first, what's going on, guys? Cheers. As you guys know, I am a sponsored partner created with Rise of Kingdoms, so if you want more raw content, consider subscribing down below. Now before we jump into this video, I do want to make one thing very clear. The commanders that we talk about in this video will likely continue to get some of you really good reports in open field combat, at least within the next couple of months. This video is not me telling you that these commanders perform poorly in the open field. What this video is a recommendation that if you do not have these commanders yet, you should not consider getting them right now or in the foreseeable future. Now of course that could always change, and if it does I will make a video about it, but please don't get confused. I don't want to see comments down there saying, oh, some of these commanders are literally meta and he's saying they're bad. No, I'm not saying they're bad. I'm saying that don't waste your sculptures on them right now, and I'll explain why in this video. Okay, so let's pop open the tier maker and cover the different categories that we have for these commanders. At the very top we have the do not invest. This is just straight up the commanders that I'm going to tell you guys don't put sculptures into them right now. It doesn't make any sense. Next up we have the warning category, which means there is a high probability, in my opinion, that they are going to land in the do not invest category very soon, and you may even be able to make arguments that the warning category commanders belong in the do not invest category already. Then we've got the risky category, which as it states is commanders that you might want to invest in for one reason or another, but it's definitely a risky use of your sculptures. And then finally we have the category, where I could make an argument for investing in them and I could also make an argument for not investing in them, and so it's kind of a toss-up. I'll give you guys my thoughts on those commanders as well. And with that being said, let's kick off the video with a somewhat controversial entry into this list, and that is of course Hermann Prime. Now here's the thing about Hermann Prime, he's going in the category, and here's why. Right now Hermann Prime is not in the single best march for archers in the game. He used to be before Emperor Qin came out, and now he is no longer in that role. But if you are running 2 or more archers, he is definitely a commander that is pretty much a must-have commander for your open field performance, and the reason for that is pretty clear. He is still a very strong commander, but he is definitely showing his age. First of all, he has less stats than we would like to see, although the march speed is nice. On top of that, the 3 target 2000 damage factor AoE is starting to feel a little bit dated these days, and honestly it has been for a few months, but at least he has a half circle AoE, which is quite nice. However, his poison stacks have always been the thing that have made him unique and have made him a kind of a must-have commander. This debuff is very good, but here's the thing. Over the last 12 months we have seen fewer and fewer skill damage commanders in the open field from infantry and from cavalry, because now we have smite and combo damage. And for a while you could still make the argument that it's like, okay, well, you know, even though we have smite damage and even though we have combo damage, we're still running commander pairs like Ragnar with CPO, we're still running commander pairs like Hua with King Arthur, and so we still do have a lot of skill damage on the board, and so it does make sense to continue to use those poison stacks behind somebody like Zhuge Liang, right? And you could still make that argument to this day. But now that new cavalry are right around the corner and we already have our hands on Achilles, which is in the game as a super powerful combo damage cavalry, the writing is on the wall, folks. We are moving in the direction of running 2 combo calves. We're moving in the direction of running 2 smite damage infantry, if not more. And some of you watching who are Gigoels are probably sitting there saying, Omni, I'm already running 2 combo calves or 2 smite damage infantry, right? Like you have the means to convert those armaments or get those powerful inscriptions or whatever the case might be. But right now I would say even for the average player we are starting to see fewer people running multiple skill damage armies of different troop types. Now he is in the category because he's still in the second best march for archers, and he does objectively have still pretty good damage output, nice AoE skill damage bonus here, and the poison stacks will still help all of the Emperor Qins that, you know, let's face it, they are a large portion of your kill points these days, right? Your Emperor Qin march is outperforming pretty much anything else that you have, at least at the time of recording this, and Hermann's poison stacks are helping him do that if you are running him in the field. So he lands in the category. You might be able to put him in the risky category. I could totally see that, right? I could see him not being in the top 2 marches with the next archer release, but for me I'm going to put him in the category. I'm erring on the side of caution with Hermann Prime. I've always been more of a Hermann believer rather than a Hermann hater. I know a lot of people, know, kind of said that he was dead a while ago. I still think he's solid, so I'm going to put him in the category. Let's move on to the next commander here, and that's going to be Joan of Arc Prime. I'm putting her in the risky category, and here's why she's actually worse on the tier list than Hermann Prime, because you might be saying, well, wait a minute, Omniarch, this is also a 3 target 2000 damage factor AoE, and the 4th skill guarantees the double cast, right? Well, here's the thing about Joan, right? She actually does have less stats than Hermann Prime. Her buff is solid for sure, but I prefer the poison stacks. But here's the thing about Joan, she's a cavalry commander and she deals skill damage, and we know that the future of cavs is combo damage, whereas with Hermann Prime we know the future of archers is still skill damage, right? And so for that reason, at least Hermann's damage type has synergy with the future of the troop type, whereas Joan of Arc does not have synergy with the future of cavalry, at least from what we can tell right now. Now, that's not to say, again, don't leave the comment, I know she's a good commander, right? You can still use her and still get good reports. I love Joan of Arc. I've used her for a long time, ever since 2022 she's been on the account. Okay, I love Joan of Arc, but with the upcoming cavalry release, I think we're gonna see a huge drop off in her usage, because I do think we're gonna see a lot more players running 2 combo calves in the next couple of weeks. The next commander we're going to talk about is Alexander the Great. He lands in the warning category. Okay, and as you guys can see from the trend of this video, I'm going to put somebody in each of these categories so you guys kind of get an idea of what these categories actually feel like and look like, in my opinion. Okay, the reason that Alexander the Great lands in the warning category is because the instant proc meta is definitely not what it used to be, and I've made entire videos talking about Alexander the Great in the past. I even recently made a video talking about why Alexander the Great used to be meta and he's not anymore, right? And I'm talking about the second time he was meta, the resurgence of him after Liu Che came out. But right now I think is a really bad time to invest in Alexander the Great. I think when Liu Che first came out and he was getting really good reports, you could farm insane kills with him. It was literally just mainly a skill issue, right? Like you either knew how to use him and farm the easiest kills ever, or you simply didn't, right? And you put him too far into the murder ball and he just gets swarmed down and you think he's horrible, right? But really those days are over. I mean, let's be real. Now I still like Alexander the Great because his march, he's literally the fastest infantry commander in the game right now, but let's be real, the shielding factor is not very good. The debuff on the active skill is really what actually saves him, and so you do need to have him expertised. The insta proc is fine, but again, that meta is behind us, and I like how he has a lot of attack because right now we see more defense and health in the crystal tech trees. But at the end of the day, you know, a commander that has an active skill that doesn't deal any damage definitely is a hard sell these days, especially when he has the attack tree and he's infantry. He does not have smite damage, so he does not fall in line with the synergy for the future of that troop type. It's just like, why even, like, what are we doing here, right? Like, he's an old commander, he's a season 2 commander. If you want to make the argument that you're going to get him just for season 2 and then you're going to swap him for somebody else, totally fine, you can make that argument, and I think he is still very strong in season 2. But I mean, at this point he even has competition in season 2 because we've got Chook, right? And so even in his own KVK format, he is no longer like the de facto best commander for infantry because we've got a smite damage AoE, right? So it's like, what are we doing here? You know what I mean? So Alexander the Great goes in the warning category. I think you could easily make the argument that he goes in do not invest, right? I think if it weren't for Liu Che, obviously he would be in this category, no question. We wouldn't have even been talking about him for the last like 2 years. I'm going to put him in the warning category for now, but again, if you want to put him here, totally agree. I can totally see where you're coming from. And this one pains me. This one really pains me. I'm definitely gonna do it. I know I'm gonna do it, and I know people are gonna look at this and say, well, wait a minute, hang on, you're putting Alex in warning and you're putting Nevsky in do not invest. What the heck is that all about? And literally the difference between these commanders is simply the fact that Liu Che is meta and you can get somewhat good reports with Alex as secondary, but I haven't heard anybody talk about their super good Nevsky reports lately. I mean, there's the oddball comment that is, you know, left on the videos, but all in all, the consensus is pretty unanimous. Most people agree that Nevsky's days are behind us. And again, like I said at the beginning of the video, I'm not here to tell you that your Nevsky is not going to perform well in the open field. It depends on your kingdom. It depends on your KVK, your enemies, your allies. There's a lot of things that go into whether or not a commander is going to perform well in the open field, right? But when we think about the future of cavalry, it's not skill damage, and it certainly isn't a single target 2300, right? Like, there's just no world where this will stack up with the current meta. It's just not going to happen. I love his march speed. I love the stat distribution here. There's a lot to love about the skill damage bonus, but again, when you're not going to be getting a ton of super powerful skill damage cavalry commanders to work with Nevsky in the future, then like, what does the skill damage bonus even do, right? Like, like who even cares about this if you're not going to be running skill damage on cavalry, you know what I mean? So I definitely think Nevsky's days are his glory days are behind us, unfortunately. Now if you are running 3 cavalry marches, are you still going to run Nevsky? Maybe, but like even those days are numbered because we're getting new calves soon. Again, you're gonna see a trend in this video, but I mean the single target damage is just not, it's just not going to cut it, unfortunately. And as much as we've loved Nevsky for a long time, the conversation around Nevsky was artificially extended by the fact that Arthur is a dual combo skill damage commander, right? Like King Arthur is obviously a sign that Rise of Kingdoms was in a sort of growing pain transitionary period where they didn't want to release just a combo damage commander because everyone's got Hua and everyone's got Nevsky, so they like slapped skill damage on him and like it worked, right? But that was kind of like the signs that the skill damage cavalry were on life support, and Nevsky is definitely the number one we're going to talk about here as far as do not invest in 2025 or 2026. Okay, so now I've kind of given you guys my reasoning behind each commander in each category. Let's go ahead and fill this out with a couple of more commanders. Next, let's talk about Philip. Philip is a fan favorite commander right now, and it's probably going to shock some people that he's even in this video. He's going to land in the category, right? I can easily make the argument that people should and can invest in Philip right now, and they're going to be able to put him behind their King Arthur, and then whenever the next cavalry come out, you're just going to run that cavalry commander either in front of or behind Achilles, and that's your 2 best cav lineup, and then you're Gucci, you're good to go. And then it makes sense, and it's like, of course I'm going to invest in Philip, right? Like I get it, right? I totally get it. But here's the thing, Philip is basically a leadership version of Alexander the Great, and so the only advantage that he really has over Alexander the Great is that he can work with any troop type, and so that actually gives him a little bit of flexibility, a little bit of longevity here, and his march speed is pretty nice. You can lend that to archers, you can lend that to whoever, to infantry. But the thing is, like, you could make the argument before that he's good behind Zhuge Liang. I think some people might still run him there, but at the end of the day, like, he no longer really has relevance when it comes to archers, and he definitely doesn't have as much relevance when it comes to infantry, right? So it's like we're talking about him as a cavalry commander still, and I don't know, I'm just not really buying it, right? Again, just like I said with Alex, a commander that doesn't deal damage on the active skill, it's a 2-second buff. Like, what are we talking about, right? Like it's really not moving the needle as much as you think it is. And yes, he's got 30% all damage, but so does Julius Caesar, right? Like that can't be the hill we die on here, right? We can't just use that as like a deflection of all criticism because other commanders have all damage, right? So it's like, yes, it's fantastic that he has this, but it doesn't make him a good commander all on its own right. And again, you're still going to get good reports with him, which is why he's in the category, but like investing in him right now is a hard sell in my opinion. We're coming up on the 1-year anniversary of Philip landing in the game, and I think he has served his role for this year, and he's definitely still going to be someone that you can fit into different armies. But as somebody you're dumping 690 legendary commander sculptures into, it's a hard sell in my opinion. So that's why he lands in the category. I don't know. I honestly feel like I should put him higher on this list, but some people really swear by him, so I will take their word for it that he's like a powerhouse. And like truthfully, he's traded well in my KVK, so like objectively he's still doing well. But again, we're talking about his main use is cavalry, and new calves are right around the corner. So it's like, are people still going to use him for calves? Probably, but for how much longer? And is it worth to invest in now? I don't know. Next, let's talk about Shajar. I'm putting her in the risky category because I know she works really well behind Emperor Qin in things like altars, right? But really, I want to put her in one of these categories if I'm being honest with you guys, but I'll put her in risky for now. And the reason that she goes in the risky category is for the exact same reason that Joan of Arc Prime goes in the risky category, right? She is a true damage commander in a world where archers are not true damage, right? Now you could make the argument that it's like, okay, well, if she's primary, she's skill damage, which does align with what archers are doing, but it's also single target damage. So it's like, I'm not really buying it here. I know she is kind of like queen of Sunset Canyon right now. She does really well there. She's super tanky. She gives you march speed. And I'm not saying, again, I'm not saying that she's not usable. I know a lot of people do use her. Archer mains really have gone in the weeds and tested with her, really like her with Emperor Qin. But to me, she just doesn't seem like a commander that is like really worth discussing that much for most players in Rise of Kingdoms right now. Next up, William Wallace, ladies and gentlemen, landing in the warning category. My criticism criticism for William Wallace has been going on for a long time now, ever since we found out that he didn't really perform much better than Alexander the Great, and in many instances my Alexander the Great just kept outperforming him when paired with Liu Che, right? This was back when he first came out. Since then, now that people are running more than one smite damage infantry, I do think people are using William Wallace to fill that second role. But here's the thing, just like we see with other commanders, he is a single target damage. That damage is not very high, by the way. 2400 is like shockingly low considering he came out in 2024, right? Like mid 2024, a 2400 single target is crazy. The only thing that bumps that up is if someone else is hitting you, which you don't want for William Wallace, because he's mostly an attack commander, right? He's more of a glass cannon than anything. Now he does have buffs for the commander he's paired with, which is nice, but at the end of the day, like, William Wallace just does not cut it, right? Even still, like, you also could even make the argument that you would want to run Chook over William Wallace purely for the AoE. The expertise is a mini smite damage fan shape, which is nice, big cooldown though, and you can reduce skill damage, combo damage, or smite damage. Same thing over here, you're dealing more normal damage. I think that there's a good argument for Chook over the William Wallace. Unfortunately, I don't have Chook expertise and it just feels too late. We're not even going to talk about Chook in this video, to be honest with you guys, but I think it's pretty clear, right? Like, the writing's on the wall for William Wallace. We know that the next infantry are coming in January. They've already confirmed that. Rise of Kingdoms has already said that. And so what are the odds that that's going to be a smite damage infantry? Pretty high. And even if it's single target, it's probably going to deal more damage than that, right? And so even if you're running 2 infantry and they're both smite damage, you're probably not going to be running William Wallace in the next couple of months. That was my Discord notification, not yours. I apologize. All right, let's just get this one out of the way. Belisarius Prime. I don't even really have to say that much about Belisarius Prime, because even out of the gate, he was almost dead on arrival. His expertise made it very clear that he was meant for swarming things down. This was a commander meant for the whales that were swarming down the flags, the forts, the rallies, all those types of things. And yeah, he does that role pretty well, but that's the only thing that he does. He's a single target damage cavalry commander in a world where we've got better single target damage cavalry commanders, and it's skill damage, which, as we've talked about in this video, is not the future for calves. And by the way, he's also a mobility commander, which is a niche role. You can use that to do like farm killing in the background when, you know, the enemy's trying to farm nodes for teleport spots. Like, he has weird little roles that he's really good at, but most players are not filling those roles. And again, the single target skill damage is the nail in the coffin here. He's just not, I mean, like, what are we talking about, right? Like, it's been known since he came out, or even since he was announced, that he was just not going to be cream of the crop, and he still serves his niche roles, but those are not reasons to invest in Belisarius Prime unless you're one of those giga whales filling those roles. Now, this one's going to be a little bit controversial, but YSG lands in the category. Now, let me be very clear. This video is part of a series. Every couple of months, I release a video saying like, hey, stop investing in these commanders, and here's why. YSG was actually higher on the list last time, but Emperor Chin came out of nowhere and brought him farther down on the list. Now, here's the thing about YSG. Is he one of the best pairs for Emperor Chin the entire game? Absolutely, no question. My reports with Emperor Chin YSG were the best reports that I got in my last KBK, and it's almost not even close, right? The closest thing was Emperor Chin with Zhuge Liang, and beyond that, we had like some solid reports with Bai Tu Liu Che, okay? But the thing is that YSG, you know, should you invest in him for that exclusive pairing? Maybe, right? Maybe, especially because he's an earlier game commander. But like, when we really think about what the Emperor Chin YSG pairing is, it's all in on damage. And so the people that are going to benefit from that march the most are the people that have really decent gear for their sets. I'm not saying this is groundbreaking. Obviously, I can't be a rally or garrison lead here, but this set is solid. I have decent armaments, nothing crazy, but it's fine, right? So people like me, you know, who have the tier 5 boots, we've got the special talent here. Like, there's a lot that I've done to make this march really good. And because I'm going to spend a little bit on crystal tech, I'm going to have a little bit of extra defense and health that maybe some other players might not have. Okay, so for me, I can get away with doing an all damage, maximum damage glass cannon build and really get away with that. The average player might actually prefer the Zhuge Liang. Yes, it doesn't have as much skill damage bonus, but you've got a better stat distribution here. You've got an extra AoE, and there's just a lot to love about the Zhuge Liang behind the Emperor Chin, because you don't need the Horn of Fury, right? And so like, that's really, really nice. Some might say you don't need that for YSG as well. I think that's a little bit more risky, but my point is YSG kind of has one good pairing right now. It just so happens to be one of the best pairings in the game. So it's like, do you invest in him? Do you not? I think really you can, right? Like, especially in the early game, you might as well invest in him because you can swap him if you don't want him, right? Like, obviously. So again, he goes in the category. You could definitely make the argument that he's he's a great commander to have right now, and throughout history, just objectively, he's been part of the meta for a vast majority of Rise of Kingdoms. It just is what it is, and every time we think he falls off, something new comes around and boom, he's back in the meta, right? So I mean, hey, you could make the argument that he's still worth investing in, but right now, is it good to invest in a season 1 commander? I don't know. I think it's, your sculptures are better put in Emperor Qin and other commanders that I think are coming down the pipeline that are going to be Emperor Qin levels of damage, right? Next, let's talk about William. I'm putting William in the risky category. This is another commander that in previous versions of this video, he was actually higher on the list. I think last time I put him in the warning category. I'm bumping him down now because we do actually see really decent reports coming out of him with King Arthur, and the fact that we've got the cannot benefit from buffs that increase skill damage on the active skill here. I think that, William is in a very unique position where not only that, but he gives you some extra rage for your allies. There's actually a lot that William does beyond just the damage factor here. I know the damage factor is quite low. Maybe he'll get another relic that'll bump this up even more. If this was like plus 300 or 400, that would be a pretty big deal for William. And so for me, I think that William's days are definitely still numbered, right? I think that I'm not one of those people that swears by the Arthur William. I think, for me, I've been running Arthur Philip and it's been just fine, right? So it is what it is. Who knows what the future will be for William? Again, I'm bumping him down on the list because I think that he is better now than he was a year ago. I would say, like, before Arthur came out, I think that William was in a much worse place. But that being said, just like with Joan of Arc in the same category, he's skill damage, right? He's a skill damage commander. His skill damage is very power crept at this point. The shape of his skill damage is really rough, which really isn't that big of a deal if we're being honest. Like, you're probably going to hit at least 3 targets on a murder ball. Like, what are we talking about, right? But at the end of the day, the future is combo for cavalry, and so like William's days are pretty much numbered unless something else crazy happens. Next, let's talk about Ashurbanipal, dropping him in the warning category. The thing about Ashurbanipal is that he really is just a vanilla skill damage AoE commander, which is like really worked well for archers for a long time, but there's nothing else really unique about his kit. He is a commander that is from the Mightiest Governor event, so you're probably gonna have to use universals for him, and you also have to get a certain number just to unlock him. Beyond that, you kind of need the expertise here because that's where he gets a lot of his stats from. And so it's like, before Emperor Qin came out, you could argue that he was in the top 2 best marches for archers. These days, you can't really say that, right? Clearly the best archers are Emperor Qin with YSG, Yuge Liang with Herman Prime, or some other formation there. I don't think Ashurbanipal lands there, especially because his march speed is conditional, right? And you really can't be on the fence with march speed these days for archers, right? So for me, Ashurbanipal, he might be a commander that you run if you're running 3 different archers, right? Totally possible, but really I think his days are numbered. I don't really foresee him continuing to be a super powerful open field commander. I think he's still probably going to trade okay right now in the field if you're running 3 archers, but like realistically, I don't think he's worth investing in. You even could probably put him up here if you wanted to. Let's do another controversial one, shall we? Let's put Hector in the category. Okay, so here's the thing about Hector, right? He is the newest leadership commander of the game, literally just landed. I just recruited him like yesterday or something like that. And the thing about Hector is that he clearly has a role with cavalry, but we're about to get more cavalry. So it's like, I don't know, is he gonna take this place of Philip behind your King Arthur? Maybe, right? Maybe, but for how long? He's single target damage, 2 combo attacks, right? There's definitely something to be said about him being a garrison commander, but we're talking about open field here, and it's like, I don't know, like, yeah, he's universal. He adapts his damage to the troop type, which is nice. It gives him some longevity, but really, he's really a little bit better of a Hua, right? And in a day and age where like that's not saying that much, the skill damage here is just not power crept enough. Realistically, it's really just not. He needed like 3,500 or 4,000 damage factor to really have him in the conversation as a serious contender. That being said, if there is some new cav that comes out that is just absolutely garbage in the next couple of weeks, then maybe you use Hector, right? And so he's going in the category because he's leadership, he's adaptable, but is he really the best? There's this saying that you could be good at everything but you're not great at anything, you know what I mean? And that's kind of how I feel about Hector, except for garrison, right? He actually might be great at garrison, but that's not what we're talking about in this video, right? We're talking about open field performance. I think he's going to do solid, but like, is it really the best place for 690 universals? Right? He goes in the category. It's like, I don't know. I'm not super convinced. Next, we're going to talk about a pair of commanders, and they are both going into the risky category. That is, of course, none other than Scipio Prime and Ragnar Prime. Now, here's the thing. These commanders are bundled together for a couple of reasons. Well, really, it's just one reason. They are skill damage infantry commanders, right? And if you look at the risky category, you're going to start to see a trend here. They do not adapt the correct damage type for their troop type. Now, here's the thing though, right? Scipio, when you look at this kit, it's actually solid. The damage factor definitely is power crept, right? Like, let's be honest here. The health reduction, it's not what it once was, right? You got to remember, he came out all the way back in 2022 before everyone had insane like health armaments, before we had health in the crystal tech. So like now we've got even more health on top of all of that. It's just like, I don't know. I'm not loving it, right? But beyond that, he's pretty fast for an infantry commander. He's actually got 60% of stats, which is, it's good, right? Like that's better than lots of commanders these days. He's got extra damage. He reduces skill damage, which you definitely want to see in the Emperor Chin meta, and at least he's AoE, right? And so I like Scipio, right? And if we look at Ragnar, it's actually kind of the same thing. He actually hits really hard. People don't realize the expertise is shockingly good, and he's shockingly tanky with Scipio Prime, right? So this pairing I actually still really like. It's just the fact that it's skill damage infantry, which like we don't really have a future for that. Now there is a case to be made where, you know, I've made a video recently talking about how we are going to probably be getting a new skill damage formation before March, right? That's my anticipation. And if that skill damage formation is really good, maybe this commander pairing is something to consider if the next infantry is also single target damage, right? Like those two things have to be true in order to keep using Ragnar Scipio over the next couple of months. And so when you start to like, as the more excuses pile up, it's just like, what are we talking about here, right? You know, the writing is kind of on the wall. They definitely have an expiration date. I'm still going to be using them for the next couple of months, but like, should you be investing in them right now? It's a big ask, right? It's a lot of sculptures for both these commanders. Luckily CPO you could use as 5551, but like then you're getting less of the skill damage reduction, which we like. So it's like, I don't know. Also, can I just say the cool part about this third skill with Ragnar is that it has a 30% chance to drain the enemy when you either launch a basic attack or is hit with a basic attack, which means if you're hit with a combo attack, you're going to be draining the enemy's attack and march speed, right? And so, you know, with the prevalence of more combo commanders out there with Achilles and also with the upcoming cavalry, which we expect to be combo, you're actually going to get this quite often, right? And so the argument that he's too slow is like, it's valid, right? It's a valid argument, but once you're in the fight, realistically, you're probably going to be taking those circular AoEs from Achilles. It's going to make sure that this is up pretty often, right? And as far as I remember, there's no cooldown here either. So even though it's for 2 seconds, like you can still continue to get this over and over and over again. So yeah, he's a little slow for sure, but he's reducing normal damage, which again, you're reducing combo damage, you're reducing the smite damage. I like this pair, but I think it belongs in risky because it's skill damage infantry. Like that is really just the trend of the risky category. And the final commander we're going to be talking about in this video is of course Hua. He lands in the do not invest category. And as you can tell, the trend of the do not invest category is single target skill damage cavalry. Why would that be the case? Well, we're about to get new cavalry commanders. So none of these commanders are things that you should be investing in. Even Hua, who is still probably getting some of you decent reports with King Arthur behind him, you're just not going to want to invest in him right now. It doesn't make sense. His damage factor is low. It's higher than the rest in this tier here, but it's still low by current open field meta standards. Same thing with Nevsky. He's giving you a buff to your skill damage, but really we're not going to be using that much skill damage in the future of Cav. So it's like, what's the point, right? And I think that a lot of you guys watching this video probably expected Hua to land in this category. I mean, it is what it is. I don't really even have to explain this very much because just look at this. I mean, I've explained it time and time again throughout this video, but guys, if you made it to the end of the video, consider dropping a thumbs up. It really helps out the channel a ton. If you're new here, consider subscribing and comment down below your thoughts on the list that I made above. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Who do you think should be on this list? And by the way, if there's a commander that I didn't talk about here, it's either because they are so bad that nobody even is considering using them, or they're so good that it is abundantly clear that they are in the meta. Anyway, guys, with that being said, thank you so much for watching. This has been Omniarch. I'll talk to you guys again soon. Peace.